All right, hey everybody, it's J-Man here with Steve and Sean, and today we're talking about one of the most important things in the history of humanity. This topic is just beyond anything that's going on in the world. Is the length of movies, and it's very important. We need to come up with like a committee or something, and some amendments. We need to do some like amendments and constitution and all that. Okay, so what sparked this was, I guess, well, Sean, what sparked this really? Because I kind of just went with what you guys wanted.
Oh, China recently, because of the pandemic. I'm dating this video if you're watching this 20 years from now. But why are you? But anyway, China has decreed that any sort of event should be that's indoors should be about 2 hours, which means that any movie screening in the few movie theaters they have open right now should be 2 hours, 2-hour movies. The problem is a lot of Hollywood directors tend to not be able to edit themselves, and movies are way longer than 2 hours. And what's his name, Chris Nolan, he had his heart set on Tenet being the movie that ushers in the new movie age and stuff, when people go back to theaters. Problem is the man makes 2.5-hour, 3-hour movies, and Tenet is 2.5 hours, and he's upset. So that can't play in China. And the Chinese market, of course, is huge. So now Hollywood's like, well, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna like cut down movies and show them in China to make some of our money back right now, or what's gonna happen?
Well, this wouldn't have been a problem about 15, 20 years ago, easy. And also, by the way, the trailers and the commercials are 25 minutes. Remember, guys, I've been timing them since we've gone.
Yeah.
They're now 25 minutes. But I remember 90 minutes was the regular time. Sometimes it'd be 100 minutes. And then sometimes you'd have like really special movies where it was like, Batman 89 was 1 hour and 20 minutes. It was like 119 or something. And you're like, well, Batman hasn't been on the big screen since the 66 movie. And so this is a big event. It's going to be 2 hours. And you're like, wow, can I hold my piss for 2 hours? Like, I don't know. And as a kid, you're like, well, I got to fucking hold my piss because I ain't leaving during Batman. That's for sure. And it's like, now it's just like everything is a choice. My God, there could be like Christopher Nolan literally makes 7-hour movies. And it's like, buddy, edit yourself down. Now, I know we talked about Star Trek, but I watched a Star Trek Next Gen today where they go back to Earth and Picard visits his brother. Worf's family comes aboard the Enterprise, and Wesley gets a message from his father who had passed away. They found like a recording. That was 46 minutes, 3 families, 3 different perspectives of family. Worf is embarrassed of his parents. Jean-Luc is tense with his brother. This entire thing was covered in 46 minutes. I got choked up because it was so well done. And I'm thinking, 46 minutes. Like, why does every movie need to be 7 hours? I mean, it's not Ben-Hur where Ben-Hur has so much story that it needs to be that long, right? But I mean, why does like The Dark Knight Rises have to be as long as Ben-Hur? Like, are you crazy? I don't get it.
You're right, Jay. And like it used to be the historical epic, right? So Cleopatra,
right?
Ben-Hur, Lawrence of Arabia. Like you were telling a very special story to need that length of time, right? And for some reason, everyone then, I guess they thought they were telling special stories or not, but they say they are. And like my whole take on this is pretty straightforward. Christopher, if you want to be shown in China, you got to edit it down.
You have to make Finn smaller on the poster. That's how China operates. That was the thing in Star Wars where they made Finn smaller.
And can I just say, this is such a Hollywood problem. Like, people are dying and coronavirus, and they're worried about cutting half an hour out of a movie.
To be honest, like, movies were were long before maybe the 80s. Like, I mean, Superman the movie is super long, right? Movies were like epics. And I mean, whenever they aspired to make the epic, you know, like 2001: Space Odyssey or something like that, it was a long movie. The 80s, I think, gave rise to the blockbuster cut of like 90 minutes, so that you can pack as many people and as many screenings into a day as possible, right? But then they got longer and longer, and when they did get longer, there wasn't a lot of story. Like, I don't know why Independence Day is so long. It doesn't make any sense. Those aliens don't blow anything up till like an hour into the movie. You know, there's no story pacing anymore. I think that's kind of the problem. When movies were long, there was a lot going on.
Right.
So as a little kid, I could sit through Superman the movie.
Oh,
it's super long, and you don't see Superman until about 90 minutes into that film. But I mean, something like Independence Day, like these movies don't need to be that long. And I know everyone loves Chris Nolan and The Dark Knight, but like that movie, like I don't know why they're in Hong Kong. Like, there's no reason for that whole. People forget that even happened, and that's like a big like half hour of that film. Just cut it right out. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for a lot of things that happen in these movies, and they still cut out stuff like this overindulgence of Zack Snyder getting to make his cut, and his cut is going to be like 6 hours long. Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of that stuff's cut out of movies is because they don't need to be there, right? So yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah. When they were long because there was a lot of story to tell. Cleopatra didn't show up and do one thing and then leave. It's like there's a lot going on, a lot of characters. I just watched Cleopatra. That's why I'm mentioning that. I watched it just 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's genius. But anyway, like Batman's fighting the Joker. What the hell? I mean, he fought him 4,000 times in the TV series and the cartoons. It's like, why does it have to be so long? Like, what is happening? I think that the filmmakers think that if we make this long, we're making it deep and we're making it interesting and we're raising a lot of moral issues and there's a lot going on. It's like, no, you're not raising anything. It's like they go to Hong Kong. I don't know why. I can't remember. He has to get the guy or something. And I've seen Dark Knight 3 or 4 times. It's way too long. And like, if you look, 12 Angry Men, the black and white one, Henry Fonda, in my top 10 favorite films of all time. 12 characters, unnamed, all white men. But very distinct. And in that 100 minutes or whatever it is, 105 minutes, everybody is a character that you understand, to the point where if you hear dialogue and you don't know who said it, you can say, well, that was probably juror number 3 who said that. So you can do characters and get them all. And we're only dealing with Joker, Batman, you know, Commissioner Gordon, I guess, Two-Face a little bit. Like, I mean, and that's it. Like, why is they're so long?
Right, but we're talking about movie length in terms of watching a movie in a theater, which right now isn't a thing and probably won't be a thing for a while, and probably will never come back the way it used to be, like as strong as it used to be. That scenario is you're in a movie theater, you're stuck, you can't pause the thing. So you have to stick this out for the duration. It's like me watching Transformers 4. And like that thing was long, and I thought it ended before they went to China, and then it's like another hour in China, and I had to pee so bad, but like I can't pause it. And I'm so in terms of movies now on Netflix and stuff, is movie length really an issue anymore? I mean, and the thing is, people watch things in sort of episodes anyways. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal for a lot of people to not be able to watch something in one sitting. Like The Irishman, I don't think a lot of people watch The Irishman like all the way through. I think it's like 3 hours or some ridiculous thing.
It's over 3 hours.
And it's on Netflix, right? So it's like you're pausing it, you know, you take care of things and stuff, you come back maybe the next day and you watch a bit more. It's like, and these streaming services and everything, they pick up where you left off. They're designed to be like that. Does it matter anymore that movies are super long?
I would say yeah. And I'll tell you why. Like, for someone like me who doesn't have like a great deal of time, a lot of stuff on the go, if you're saying to me, like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's two like 80-minute movies I can watch. Like, I can fit in at least three Friday the 13th movies in the span that it takes to watch The Irishman. Okay, yeah. So like, I'm sitting there because you're just thinking like, I'm spending this block of time and I'm watching one thing, right? Whereas with like a lot of these smaller ones, I can get in two or three, right? And it becomes a question of which one is more entertaining to me. The Irishman, so that's a really good example you bring up, Sean, because here's the thing with me. I generally look for entertainment. Am I going to be entertained by 3 hours of The Irishman? It's probably a great movie. I haven't watched it yet. That should be indicative of my thoughts. But like, am I going to be entertained for those 3 hours? Am I going to walk away and say that was 3 hours well spent versus watching 3 Friday the 13th movies where I know I'll be entertained. I know I'll have a lot to say afterwards. And, you know, I got 3 of them in as opposed to having to sit through one Irishman. Like, and you stop halfway through and you're like, where was I again? Oh, yeah. Let me rewind this a bit and rewatch the last, like, 10 minutes just to remind myself. Like, you know, it's hard enough, like, watching a 22-episode television show, right? Thank God for, you know, previously on whatever. If not, I'd be like, what did we do again? Like, what the hell? Like, the demands on time with, like, all this media around, all these, YouTube wasn't around when we were kids, all this stuff, all this, like, grabbing our attention. We got alternatives now we didn't have. I don't have to sit there and watch a 3-hour movie. I can watch 3 hours of YouTube videos and be educated, entertained, everything.
Yeah, I'm going by, does the story need to be 3 hours? Yes or no? That's number one. Number two, it does matter to me in the sense that I'm gonna date myself and become the old get off my lawn guy, but I'm not pausing a movie and I'm not going to take out the garbage and then coming back and like, where was I? Listen, this fucking guy made a movie. I'm gonna watch the whole damn movie the way it's supposed to be watched. If you want me to watch 25 episodes of a series, then do 25 episodes. I'm not pausing movies. It pisses me right off. It's like, we're gonna watch a movie, right? So I'm coming to your place tomorrow. We're watching I, Tonya. That's a 2-hour movie. We're not fucking pausing it 1 hour and then go play Tiddlywinks and then come back. Like, I want to finish the movie. So if my experience is supposed to be to watch this thing completed, then that's the experience I want. Like, intermissions used to play an important part in older films that were epics, because the intermission comes at a point where you're like, okay, it's not like this movie's 4 hours, let's do 2 hours intermission, 2 hours. They fit it in so that you're like, okay, like 2001 as an example, it's like you see Hal reading the lips or whatever, and then that's kind of your pause, because that's a great moment to be like, okay, let me reflect and digest what I've just seen happen. Yeah. And you're like, holy shit, Hal's reading their lips and they're talking about shutting him down. He ain't fucking gonna go for that, right? Yeah. So you're like, oh my God, okay. So that's important. It's meant to be watched in that block of time. If you mean for me to watch it in the 3-hour block of time, then make it worth my 3 hours. Don't put filler stuff in to make it 3 hours to fit the 3-hour mark or whatever. I don't know who it was. It may have been one of the Weinstein guys. So, you know, take this for whatever. But he said if you could just pick up a movie and shake it, you could probably shake 10 or 15 minutes out of it. And it's like, and it's still fine. It's like, you gotta go for what you're doing. Friday the 13th, these are short movies. They're slashers. You have a few characters in the first half an hour. You kill them off in fun ways for the rest of it. They're usually 80 to 90 minutes, right? Friday the 13th right behind me, right? That's not a long movie. Now, I mean, something that has a lot of story going on, okay, TV shows are a little bit different. And I know that shows like Daredevil, which I love, one of my favorite shows of all time, those are structured as like 10-hour movies that have been compartmentalized into 10 episodes, because they're not 45 minutes and then they end like a Star Trek was on television or whatever. Like Daredevil might end 65 minutes and then the next one's like 47 minutes and then it's
whenever they want.
Whenever they want. But again, they're choosing that as your intermission time, really, because it's a 10-hour movie and they're saying, okay, Daredevil's rescued the kid or whatever. Okay, now we're taking a break. And you can binge it if you want, but in between you are going to go take a piss or refill your pop or whatever. But for that 1 hour of television of Daredevil, you're supposed to be watching it. You really shouldn't be getting up. That's why having the no ads. Ads in Star Trek or in TV shows served a purpose as well. You didn't just cut to them, right? It'd be like, Captain, we just discovered oh my God, it's the Romulans. Dun, 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 fade.
Well, they had the structure for it. I mean, from an early time, right? From the 50s onward.
Exactly.
It's like, well, we got these ads, and then they started creating these chunks and that's how episodic television,
they
was made for like decades, right? Yeah.
Right. They didn't say we're going to make TV shows that are 7 hours and too bad. It's like, they're like, okay, we got to adapt to the world. And I haven't seen, none of us have seen Tenet or whatever. I'm very positive you can make that movie 2 hours. I don't know what it's about, but it don't have to be 2.5 hours. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could tell any story in like 90 minutes or
for sure.
So I was just looking because I remember when it first came out, I was really I admired the runtime of these movies, the Men in Black movies. I'm not a big fan of Men in Black, but they're about like an hour 40, an hour 30, an hour 50. Like they don't need to break the bank and go like 2.5 hours or anything like that. Even then, I thought maybe that's a bit too long. The first one is perfect, I think. Yeah, it's pretty good. What's the best what's the movie with the best like runtime to you? It's mostly horror movies for me. Like when I watch like 80s horror movies, they're in and out and they're great. And so much happens in them. Like any of the Friday the 13th movies or any of the Roger Corman gore fest of the 80s.
Yeah.
I think 100 minutes is like plenty. I would say 90 to 100 is.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, not 80 to 100, anywhere in that range, right? Like a lot of like comedies. If you get a 2-hour comedy, that's just brutal.
That's brutal.
Like that will, unless it's a mad world, you're done. You can't do it. It's impossible. Like 80s comedies, if you look at John Hughes, check the runtime of all of his movies. They're not like longer than 80 or 90 or 100 minutes.
We've lost Sean.
I see that. Sean went to watch an 80s comedy to decide to run.
Fast that was. You just watched Uncle Buck and you're back.
Just now, I broke time and space to do it.
Well, you didn't need 4 hours for it.
No.
Comedies and horror movies need to be 80, 90 minutes, period, end of sentence. Yeah. Marx Brothers, every movie was like 75 minutes or something. Yeah. That's enough because you can't make it funny for 2 hours. Like 40-Year-Old Virgin is 2 hours of excruciating nonsense. It's bad.
That's bad.
Adventure pictures, like an Indiana Jones or something, that's where you're getting into the 100, 150, possibly 120, where there's like a lot of it, because the adventuring takes a lot of time. Like, he's fighting different guys and he's fighting through things and there's obstacles. So it's like horror movies, there's not anything big. There's no elongated action sequences. Yeah. It's all characters and killings, right? Comedy is jokes. There's no elongated jokes. It's a Mad World or whatever. That's long because there's an entire quest to that, right? And
it's an adventure.
Right. There's several characters going on an adventure. I wouldn't even call that a comedy. I would call it like a lighthearted adventure movie or something. Like, you can watch it and not laugh and still think that was pretty cool. Like, there's a lot going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you're looking more at like the longer ones, like the courtroom dramas, like A Few Good Men. Right. That will probably be 2 hours, right? Stuff like that where it's got to unfurl and like there's a mystery or something and you got to go through everything. But like, if we're going to look at Christopher Nolan movies, I don't want to tear the guy apart.
I know.
I would only say the one movie he made that can't be edited down is Memento because of the story and how it's told. Right? To me, that is the perfect length.
And how long was Memento? I don't think it was that long. Sean,
I
you
think
wanna-
it was
wanna
like
Google
110
the
minutes, I
runtime?
want to say. You want to look it up now? Like,
Because I saw that 3 times in the theater, did not feel it was boring. I felt it was
yeah,
the perfect, like it didn't
2
overstay.
hours.
2 hours?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
2 hours.
That's perfect for that
Yeah.
story. So that's one of those ones
Still
where you
feels
can't
kind
get
of
too
long to
upset.
me, man.
Did it feel long to you, Sean?
Well, still, yeah, I'd have to watch it again. I saw it in the theater too, but like, I'm amazed it is 2 hours. It could be maybe 90 minutes or so, but
Possibly, but the first time around watching it, you need that time to orient yourself
Yeah.
to the story and how it's being told to you. This is one of these things where perhaps the plot details don't need 2 hours, but the human being not accustomed to watching a movie in this backwards forwards way, you need about 20 minutes to just, you're like, whoa, what's happening? You're like, okay, I get it. The black and white scenes are moving against the colored scenes, and then they're gonna meet up at the end.
Yeah.
So the end is the middle or whatever, right? So yeah, but I mean, like, let's say Star Wars, that was 2 hours, right? Well, that was a big epic, and there's a lot to do, and perfect. And then you start getting into these longer Star Wars movies where, again, half the runtime was used to explain plot holes of the last movie. But I mean, why can Saw is like 8 films in, and Saw movies are like 90 minutes, and they're intricate plotting. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that guy said that in part 2. Holy shit, I forgot about that. And then part 5, the guy from part 1 comes back, and then the guy from part 3, oh shit, he's not even fucking dead. I thought he was dead. Oh my god. And you're like, why can Saw do it? It's Saw is supposed to be a shit, torture porn fest, and it's like, why is the storytelling and plotting better in Saw?
well, movies are getting longer and longer and longer up until this point, and people were like, even recently, every so often a debate rises, like, should there be intermissions in movies? I think maybe it's a good idea, but I think the problem is it's a different time and a different audience. I don't know if audiences know what to do with an intermission, or how it. I mean, I don't even remember. There was never like a timer or anything on those things, right? It's just there's an intermission, and you knew in your head you had 15 minutes. But
So
I
you had
don't
the
even think people
overture
would
and
know what to do
everything.
with that.
Yeah, you had the overture. But I think I would say no. And the reason why is because I always thought that intermissions were for special pictures, right? They were event pictures. And I think what we're getting to, Sean, and what you're saying is that they're trying to make everything an event picture. And Independence Day is the perfect example. That was an event picture. And there was no reason for it to be an event picture.
Yeah.
It
wasn't good.
Transformers 5 is an event picture. It's like 2.5 hours long, and it's, needs an intermission, but it's Transformers 5.
Yeah, exactly.
These movies need to tighten up like large, because I don't want intermissions either, because I want an experience where I watch the whole thing, eat my popcorn, and be done. Intermission was the epic ones where you're like, okay, I'm in for the long haul here. At intermission, I'm going to get, M&Ms. First, I'm going to eat my popcorn. Then I'm going to go get another refill of Coke and get some chocolates.
Yeah.
And that's not happening. Transformers, there is no way. Most movies are excruciating to get through again. And I didn't absolutely hate Transformers 4. That's probably the best example I can give, is I didn't hate Transformers 4. But even that, I can't watch it. It was on TV the other day. I turned it on. I'm like, man, this is 5 hours. Like, on television with ads, it's like 4 hours. I'm not kidding. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do for 4 hours in front of this thing? And then you're like, well, you got Netflix, put it on Netflix. I own the Blu-rays, even though it sucks. And it's like, well, I'm not putting that in either for 3 hours.
No.
I just can't bring myself to get there. And I watched Cleopatra a month ago, and that was whatever hours. I'm like, well, why? I don't know. I just can't do it. I don't know. They're too long.
No, it's you understand that was like, every story has a best before date, right? It has a shelf life, and the best example of that is we can do Casino Royale. That was pretty bad, where you're watching it and you got to it and he attacks, he kills with Chef, and you're like, cool. And it's 20 minutes with him and the girl. I forget her name off the top of my head. And you're like, where are we going with this? And it's not because I know Bond is never going to end up with the girl and all that. I'm just literally like, I have no idea where this is going. Yet it felt like the third act had already passed, and we got this 20 extra minutes where I'm like, it's like a bonus feature. But mentally, I was no longer invested in the film because the goal had already been achieved, which is take out the bad guy. So I'm like, unless this is continuing on, I'm like done. Like I'm mentally checked out at that point.
It's tough for Casino.
That's a different argument because Casino Royale, the book, is not really a 3-act structure like a movie would be.
Right.
And they were adapting, so it's like there's no Act 3 really. In it. I guess Act 3 is Bond with Vesper trying to make their relationship work like in the book, and it doesn't. But
it's weird. Casino Royale. Yeah, that's a weird movie though because again, they had to insert things because that book is not that long. They inserted stuff to try to make it a feature length thing, and it's just weird. I've seen it about 3 times now. I really like it. The first time I saw it, I felt the same as Steve. I thought this was very long. I don't feel it's that bad now, but you could have trimmed maybe a happy medium between, like maybe cut 10 minutes out of that, and then kind of we're all happy, and then Steve, you're not too bored, because it kind of wraps it up a bit quicker. But that's a weird movie. But again, I can take it. I can't take it when, Joker's or Batman's in Hong Kong, and I'm like, why is he here? And if I lose track of what's happening within the movie, you're like Transformers, like things are happening. I'm like, wait, how did we get here? And why are it's not like Wizard of Oz where she's in Kansas, then she's with the Munchkins, then it's the Scarecrow, then it's the Lion.
Well, because stuff's happening with no connection to each other. It's just like, here's the sequence where they're in this guy's ship, and here's the sequence where there's a car chase, and they're in like sleds from the guy's ship, like whatever. I had that experience with Last Jedi when they're when they're on the crate, that salt planet or whatever, and then they're confronting those big like AT-ATs, they're different AT-AT. And I was like, I shook my head and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, this movie should have ended 5 minutes ago. What's going on? And there's this whole siege, and it's like, oh, like, what's happening, man? It's just like someone came up with an idea for a sequence, and they had a big sequence for a good 15, 20 minutes. You didn't really need it. It doesn't further the story at all. But that's where I sort of like got taken out of the movie, and I was like, I don't like this.
A lot of movies can be fixed with editing too.
Yeah.
The Star Wars, even the shitty story of the sequels can somewhat be fixed a little bit by like remove the entire Rose and Finn going on that pointless adventure. That knocks off like 15 minutes and you've done nothing. And then that movie should have ended with Kylo saying join the dark side to Rey, and then end it there. And then and we talked about this saying, well, that leaves excitement for the next one because you're like, oh shit, is Rey going to actually join him? Because it looked like maybe she was considering it. It's like, look, your parents are nothing, join me. And then that leaves you something exciting to look for in the next one. But no, they had this action sequence, which you're like, okay, it's an action sequence, but I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no emotional. That's why Empire ended on an emotional thing, not an action-y thing. Because you got to get pumped up for the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
And an action sequence is the conclusion of a story where, yay, we've defeated that's why the first one, they defeated the Death Star. And that's why that movie ends there, because it's over. But then they made more. Well, you can't end it with another action sequence like, yay, we escaped Hoth. Okay. You've escaped Hoth, right? Like, anyway.
Yeah.
We're about 10 minutes.
Last Jedi was 2.5 hours long. No reason.
That's very long.
Oh God.
A Star Wars movie.
It does feel long too. It does feel long, that one, especially that one. Rise of Skywalker, I don't seem to mind as much, but Last Jedi really felt long. Also because there was a lot of stupidity going on in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, that was the movie. Jay, I think I mentioned this to you. Bruce Campbell tells the story about when he was making Evil Dead. Him and like Sam Raimi and all the guys, they came in one day or one night from shooting, and the guy who was like looking after the cabin had a lot of food out, and they like ate all the food, and then they all passed out. And the next morning, the guy comes up to Sam Raimi and wakes him up, right? Like Bruce Campbell's now underneath the table, right? He wakes him up and he looks at him and Sam Raimi says, "You drugged and violated me, didn't you?"
Yeah,
and that's how I feel watching The Last Jedi. Like someone drugged and violated me. Like it's just like you walk out there and you
walking out like, whoa, what was that?
you expect to feel your brains on your shoulder because they dribbled out of your ears during the entire film. Like it's just like the worst example of Hollywood excess I think you will find like in recent memory.
I think Transformers is actually outrageous.
Oh yeah.
Like it's actually offensive. Like I remember Sean getting up because we didn't see Transformers 2 and 3 in the theater because part 1 sucked. So we're like, well, we're not going to do that. We got 5 minutes, we'll wrap up. We're like, we're not going to do that. And then literally Sean's like, it's like, oh, I think is this over? I got to use the bathroom. And I'm like, Sean, this movie ain't fucking over. The Dinobots haven't even shown up yet, and they're on the poster. I'm like, the Dinobots are not here. And Sean's like, I gotta take a piss. Do you think I should leave now? I'm like, well, the Dinobots aren't here, so you paid money to see them, and you haven't gotten your money yet. So you may as well go piss and come back. He came back, and the Dinobots still hadn't shown up. And you're like, where are these things? I mean, oh my God, yeah.
They're in the last 5 minutes of that movie, eh?
No,
the
I
last
know.
5 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie. Look, this is my quick thing about Transformers, the Transformers movies from Michael Bay. Like the marketing people got it. They always understood what people wanted to see, and so they put that stuff all over the commercials. Like the Dinobots were the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is riding Grimlock. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. Like the fifth Transformers movie,
Nice.
the poster was Optimus with a sword fighting like a three-headed dragon. Like that's awesome. That never happens, right? I think it happens very briefly at the end where like a combiner gets created, like it like looks like the dragon or something like that. But they know what people want. Bay doesn't, right? Anyways, movie lengths. They should be shorter. Movie directors should learn to edit themselves. I think there's a bit too much excessive behavior with a lot of creative talent in Hollywood.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Well, yeah. So, a note to filmmakers: making your movie 3 hours doesn't make it better. We don't give star ratings per hour. If you make it 5 hours, you get 5 out of 5. That's not how that works. I think it should be inverse. If you make it 5 hours, you start to lose points. Tell me the story you want to tell me. Tell it in the fastest, most efficient way possible. And don't hire Michael Bay for do Transformers movies. That seems to be what we. That seems to be what we've
taken.
Even
though you make $1 billion, yeah.
And Christopher Nolan, stop it. Stop it. Tenet can be 90 minutes. I guarantee you, I haven't seen it. Make it 90 minutes. If he makes it 90 minutes, we're all going. We're all
now watch. We'll watch it and be like, we could have done another half an hour.
No, we'll come out and be like, man, that was really fast paced. They didn't really explain much.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Okay, well, I think that's good enough for this week. But yeah, movie lengths, come on. WTF. Help us out here. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.